Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It's Tuesday night. It's slightly after 9 o'clock because someone was out enjoying himself, having a good old time fishing. But if you're a Steelers fan, where else would you rather be than here with us and with me? As always, except when he's not, especially if he's fishing, is my big brother Rich. Rich, how was the fishing?
Howdy ho, everybody. Fishing was good today. It was a nice day out today. Overcast, warm, a little bit of breeze, not too bad. It was a nice day to be out on the water.
Yes. So I have to ask, because everyone else asked the question, did you take in the eclipse yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah. Made it home in time? Jury duty?
I made it. Okay. So had to go to Baltimore for jury duty Monday. So here I'll give you a real quick breakdown. So here's how it went. Sunday night, Sunday evening, leave here, drive to Urbana, which is just south of Frederick. Stayed at my mother-in-law's house. Spent the night, got up early, left her place a little after 6 to travel the hour or so into Baltimore. Get in there, in for jury duty. Came close to getting picked. They got finished seating the jury, just a couple people before me, so I got to come home. So I go out, jump in the car, race home. I get home 4 or 5 minutes before, as I'll call it, totality, the best part of the eclipse.
Totality as you got, right?
93%, which was really, really close. I mean,
yeah.
I got home, Kyle and I went out, we're watching it, and I mean, that's really close to being full. And like, I just kept waiting for a downpour to break out, because that's what it was like light-wise. It was like, it was just like it did, like it was about ready to downpour rain.
It was that bronze color, you know what I mean? It's kind of what it was. We had our glasses. It was a good thing for the kids to see. Just a small sliver on the side is what we had all that you can see the whole time.
Yep.
My youngest was mesmerized by it. We did have some clouds roll through just after peak. So we could see it through our skylight most of the time, but we did go outside and check it out. But it's just one of those things to enjoy. Glad you were able to make it back. But that's good. Let's talk some Steelers now.
Here we go, Steelers.
I'm trying to remember. Had they announced the was it Michael Pruitt, that's the tight end, before our show last week? I don't know that they did. I just got his contract today, so I have a salary cap update coming out tomorrow at the website. Other than that, there's some 30 visits going on. Right now we're just kind of sitting and waiting to see what's going on. I did an article over the weekend about, right now we're in the midst of, there's a couple things that we're not sure what the Steelers are doing. And we're in that moment where we don't see the plan coming together right now. But once that plan happens, these concerns that we have now and all these talking points, they'll be gone. And it'll be like it never happened. But we're just happen to be in that moment. But really, Rich, we are going to get to the position groups that we have. And I say groups that we haven't finished, because we have, in the second that we have outside linebacker, we have specialists. We'll talk on them in the second section, because next week we will do our live mock draft with the live chat. We'll run a simulation wherever the live chat will decide. So, do you have something else, Rich?
Well, first, I'm trying to get rid of this twitch going on in my face here.
What? Because I said the word mock draft?
Yeah. I was going to say, so it was interesting you kind of brought up, not having a clear picture, not totally know what's going on. Yeah. So was out fishing today, was out with my best friend, AJ, but my other friend who we see in our live chat here sometimes, Tim Pratt II. It was the three of us out today, and Tim and I were out. It was just Tim and I at first this morning, because AJ had something he had to do at work. And we got to talking Steelers, as he and I always do. And that's almost exactly what I got into talking to. He's like, what do you think they're going to do in the draft? I said, not totally sure yet. I said, and it's hard to say. I said, we could see something else happen free agency before the draft. Um, but I got to talking, and I said something, and he was like, you really are right, and it's this: there will be people that are upset with how the Steelers go with the draft, or they think, why are they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? Okay, and again, it's because the Steelers, they'll have a plan. We just don't know what it is.
Don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah, that was the basically the whole point of my article. There's a plan, and when it comes together, hopefully it comes together well. There's been a few times it hasn't, but most of the time it comes together well. We just don't know what it is.
Right.
So
you have to wait until everything's done, and then start to hear from the Steelers of this was our plan all along, or hey, we kind of got thrown a curveball, we had to make a change. Yeah.
My thing is it's something that we seem like we want to stress about now, but it's really not worth stressing over because we're not going to be able to do it. So I do have to ask: is that Kyle's shadow on the wall?
No, it was Renee's.
Okay, just
Kyle's not home yet. She just got home from Kyle and them had a away baseball game tonight that I skipped to go fishing.
Oh my goodness!
She's just getting home, and she brought me some dinner.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to say this: we've got Getting Bent with Bo back to the live chat. Haven't been here for a while.
Saw that, and
talking about fishing some there, but. The title of our show was something I wanted to talk about since we didn't really have news and wanted to hit it here at the beginning of the show.
Okay.
And it was, are the Steelers getting away from the draft and develop philosophy? And the whole reason I'm asking the question is because I knew you were fishing. I knew you didn't check this out yet, but it was because of an article that I wrote and ran today on the website. Oh, it was published around 12:45 Pittsburgh time. And it was almost as an intro, because starting tomorrow, I'm doing my series that I have done the last several years, regardless of where we've been at as a website, where I review some of the recent, not even all that recent, draft classes of the Steelers. I go back to the furthest back draft pick the Steelers still have on the roster, and I review every draft class from that point up until now and say, where are they now? So I do that series. Those will run every weekday in the afternoon, probably shortly after noon, unless there's news and we have to move stuff around. So, and that'll go all the way up to, I combine the last three draft classes because they're on rookie deals and everything for the last article, which will run the first day of the draft. And those will be out on weekdays. If you look for those, I know some people have read those in the past. Last year was obviously at our former stop. So we'll be bringing that to steelcurtainnetwork.com. But I did an article today to kind of set it up. And it was, the title of the article is how many Steelers draft picks are still on the 2024 offseason roster. Do you have any idea how many players that the Steelers drafted are on their roster right now? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'd have to really stop and think about that right now. If you just wanted me to real quick take a just kind of stab in the dark.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about on the current 90-man roster.
Yes.
Which doesn't have 90 people on it.
No, it has 74 actually.
74. Okay. Yep. I'm going to say drafted by the Steelers 23.
All right. You're a little bit over.
Okay. I thought 19. I might be 19. I almost said 18. And then I decided to go a little higher.
Is Afton says, I'll say 12. Do you know what 12 is the answer to? How many draft picks they have that were Kevin Colbert's? All 7 of Omar Khan's draft picks from last year still on the roster.
Yeah.
Prior to that, 12. How many players drafted by the Steelers are currently on the roster that are on second contracts? You can even try to name them to see if you can. you can get it.
Well, yeah, there's second or higher. I'm guessing you mean.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Beyond past their rookie contract.
Past their rookie contract. Yeah. Well, there's Cam.
Yep.
And there's TJ, and there's Alex Highsmith.
Yep.
And there is Minkah Fitzpatrick.
He wasn't drafted by the Steelers.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't drafted by the Steelers.
Although I haven't seen this new article. A lot of people want to count him as the first round draft pick of 2020.
I know.
But he
so
wasn't.
Let's see. Hold
technically
on.
wasn't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's all. It's 3.
That's it.
3 members of the Steelers that were drafted by the Steelers and are on their second deal. That's why I asked the question, are the Steelers getting away from the draft and develop philosophy? Because if you draft and develop, that means you're signing and keeping your own players. I only got 3.
Yeah, but sometimes it comes down to this too. Okay, is sometimes if you develop certain, it's like, who are you developing? If your early round draft picks are sticking around, that's good. But if you're developing late round draft picks, are you developing those guys and basically pricing yourself out of the market with them?
That's true as well. That's true.
Also, right now, so answering that question right now, are the Steelers getting away from? I don't know that you can, okay, because of the change in GM.
Yep.
So to me, I'm
curious if you're going to hit my answer. So go for it.
The Steelers were getting away from that, but it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years, are they getting back into the draft and develop?
It looks like they are, but what we're seeing is Omar Khan is not tied to draft picks like Steelers are typically tied to draft picks that were not his draft picks.
Yeah.
Now, could he also have the same philosophy with his own draft picks? He could. We're just not far enough into it to know yet.
Correct.
But we can definitely say Omar Khan's not going to stick around and keep guys just because they drafted them. That's how it is. Okay? Here you go. I even went through round by round how many draft picks the Steelers have from each round still on their roster. You ready? First round.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt. Cam Hayward.
Yeah.
Najee Harris. Broderick Jones. 4.
Okay.
4. That's really low. Only 4 first-round picks on your roster. But you've got to look at the extenuating circumstances. The Steelers were trying to improve the quarterback room. Kenny Pickett didn't like it. Has to be traded. They let him go. 2020, technically you can still count Minkah Fitzpatrick like he was a first-round draft pick in 2020. But he was not. They did not have one. So that's 2 guys that would have been in the last 4 years. You only have 2 from the last 4 years because of those other circumstances. The 2 years before that are both guys that didn't get 5th-year options. You didn't have Devin Bush. You didn't have a 5th-year option for Terrell Edmonds. Now, Terrell Edmonds did stick around for a 5th year, just not on the 5th-year option. Before then, he moved on. So that went 2019, 2018. Then you have TJ Watt at 2017. TJ Watt is the second longest tenured drafted player by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Drafted player. Because Boz wasn't drafted. Because he's number 2 behind Cam Hayward. Okay? For the 2017. That just goes to show how much is around. 2018, you had Deontay Johnson. They just traded him. They're just moving out these classes. So you had 4 first-round picks. You also had 4 second-round picks. 2 of them were last year. And all 4 of them are within the last 3 drafts. They have no second-round draft picks from 2020 or earlier. None. third-round draft picks, 3. The only one prior to 2021 is Alex Highsmith in 2020. That's it. So you got him, and then you've got the last 2. You don't have 2021s because Kendrick Green was traded. Fourth-round picks, you've got 3. But one of them 2 years or 3 years ago, you had Dan Moore Jr. and Buddy Johnson. One stayed, one didn't. Here's one that's interesting. The Steelers have 1 5th-round draft pick on their roster right now. One of their own 5th-round draft picks. And that's Isaiah Loudermilk, who they traded into the 5th round to draft him. They didn't even trade up or anything. They didn't have a pick. They traded in. They gave up their 4th-round pick from the next year, but they had more than. They still had a 4th-round pick for that year anyway. Steelers haven't drafted much in the 5th round. Do you realize that other than Isaiah Loudermilk in 2021, the last Steelers 5th-round draft pick was Zach Gentry?
Wow.
Zach Gentry. Here, I'm trying to bring it back up to remember. Was Gentry 18? No, he was 19. I said 2018 with Deontay Johnson. That was 2019. They were both in 2019. I messed that up that year from when I said that earlier. But yeah, 2019 was the last, other than Isaiah Loudermilk, that was the last time the Steelers had a 5th-round draft pick. And guess what? They're not scheduled to have one this year. So the only draft pick in the 5th round, which remember, Zach Gentry, they got that 5th-round draft pick from a trade. That was Mr. 3rd and 5th. That was the 5th part. Loudermilk, they traded into the 5th round. I mean, the last time the Steelers had a 5th-round draft pick of their own, and I can't even remember which one was their own, because they had 2 5th-round draft picks in 2018 when they took Marcus Allen and Jalen Samuels. So they have a tendency to use 5th-round draft picks to trade away because they don't have it again this year. I just thought that was interesting. They only have 1 6th-round draft pick, and that is from that because they didn't have one in 2023. So that was from 2022. Why is it suddenly escaping me who that was? Oh, Connor Hayward. And then they have 3 7th-round draft picks, Corey Trice, Spencer Anderson, and Mark Robinson. That's it. That's all the draft picks that the Steelers have had that are still on the roster. All of them. All 19. That's not a lot. But I think you just kind of see, I don't know if it's an overall change of philosophy of them going out and doing things in free agency even more and more. I mean, even just adding players, just like we talked about the Michael Pruitt, that a veteran salary benefit contract. So they've kind of moved on and around and doing that. So I don't know the draft and develop philosophy that the Steelers are known for is dead. It's just not what they're doing now during this transition period.
You say transition period, and I was going to say, well, shouldn't things be shaken up and look a little different during the air quotes rebuild?
Rebuild, yeah. I get it. So I do. I get it. And I mean, then you got to look at some of these players. How many of them might not make the roster this year? People are already talking about, well, is Loudermilk even going to make the roster? Maybe not. What about a DeMarvin Leal? It's not. Jeff Hartman talked about that on his things. I think it was last Wednesday. It was some stuff from our inside source where the Steelers, they're not actively trying to move Leal, but they are listening if anyone is inquiring about it. So, because to me, he's a guy, he's a 4-3 guy that's on a 3-4 team. It just feels that way right now. So, I keep saying the Steelers would be much better off having somebody better than Mark Robinson at the bottom of their depth chart at linebacker. Steelers fans would probably hate to hear this, but there's no guarantee that Corey Trice is going to make the roster this year.
Right.
There really isn't. And depending on how many players the Steelers draft on the offensive line, Who knows if Spencer Anderson makes it? I mean, I'm pulling for him right now. I'd have him on my list for sure. But if the Steelers keep adding more players, then that's another one you have to say, oh, does he make it in or not? So I was just really surprised at how few draft picks the Steelers had left.
It's surprising a little, but again, you're talking about, whether you want to use the word rebuild or transition or whatever. Those things kind of go on during that. When new head coaches and GMs and things like that come in, that you get these changes in teams. And right now I think you've kind of got that going on with the Steelers.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see how much, you would kind of expect more players from the most recent drafts, guys on rookie deals. That's part of the reason why the Steelers keep around, because they're cheap. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see, are all 7 members of the 2023 draft going to make the team this year? That'll be an interesting question. Will all of the members of the 2024 draft make the team? It seems like the more free agency is coming, ramps up even more, the more likely it is that teams keep their draft picks because they need cheaper options.
Right.
Going back and doing these articles of what happened to the Steelers draft class, it's amazing sometimes to see, 5th round, 6th round picks not making the team, things like that. So we haven't had that for the last couple of years for the Steelers. So, all right, anything else you want to talk about here before we take a break and start knocking out this last position group?
Nope. Let's take the break and let's get to outside linebackers.
Outside linebacker. And we're going to touch on specialists. Probably do that one first just to go through it, just to make sure we covered everything. So if you're with us here on YouTube, Facebook, X, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us on the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, Steelers fans, here we go. Let's get into it. We're finishing up, going through position group by position group. Why are we finishing up? Because next week, that's the live, cover your ears, Rich, earmuffs, the live mock draft for you all to work it through us, where we will be doing the mock draft simulator. You all will help make the picks. We've done it, at least twice. I'm thinking 3 times already.
Yeah, this will be year 3 or 4. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be year 4. I think it might be. So
I don't know, because of my hatred of mock drafts. I really just do it and move on.
Last year I'm pretty sure. I mean, I have to go back. I like to run the stats on these. That means I got to look these up. I don't think we got any right last year. I know the year before we got 1. So was the year before? Maybe I'm wrong. No, because that was the Kenny Pickett one. Nope, we didn't get that. The year before that, we got 1. I know that. Maybe 2 years ago, we didn't get any. I know we got Najee Harris in 2021. So, and I'm pretty sure I'm Rich. We did 2020. I remember.
Okay.
We did that because I remember we drafted J.K. Dobbins. That's what everyone in the live chat wanted. I remember talking about one of the top options for the Steelers' next pick. I said, I don't know. I don't know enough about players from small schools to know that the Steelers like them, but if the Steelers really like them, I hope they draft them. And what do you know? The one player we talked about, we didn't take him, but the Steelers did, and that was Alex Highsmith.
Yep.
So we'll see how we do. So let's knock out these last position groups. Rich, specialists. Right now, the Steelers just have one of each. And I would say they're undisputed. The Steelers might bring some other people in for camp, but these are really undisputed positions, because you don't I
think you're right.
You don't spend $9 million over 3 years on a punter to then turn around and have them lose the job before they even start. So we're talking about Cameron Johnston being the punter. I know some people have said, "Oh, you don't know enough about him." Like, what are you talking about? He's got good numbers except for hang time. That's the one that I want to. I'm curious how that's going to work out for Pittsburgh, because honestly, that's what they've been banking on the last several years. Is not much yardage, but at least good hang time. So we'll see if that definitely comes through. You have any otherwise? You have any concerns about punter?
No, not really.
Because we haven't seen him in black and gold.
Haven't seen him in black and gold, but his numbers have been solid. So
yep. So and he kicked at Ohio State, kicked in Philadelphia, so it's not like it's never kicked in the cold because he's coming from Houston. So let's see how that works out. Long snapper, the Steelers signed Christian Kuntz to a 3-year deal. Not a very big signing bonus. Other than that, it's a minimum salary each year with a small signing bonus, but locked him in for that long. So it's not like they have to be tied to him, but as long as he's getting the job done. I know some people are like, there's times on extra points or field goals, the snaps are a little bit iffy. I don't see any team that has a perfect snap every time on a field goal or extra point. I don't. So I just don't know that the snap has cost the Steelers hitting it. There might have been one extra point that was missed, maybe. So you still have Christian Kuntz. And of course, Boz is going to keep being the kicker as long as he just keeps doing his thing.
As long as he continues his wizardry.
Yes. So that's another one of those things that you don't worry about it until something comes up where you really have to worry about it. So anything else about specialists? You ready to go linebacker?
No, you said they're pretty much undisputed right now.
Yep.
Let's go to linebacker.
Yes. So linebacker. Now, what's interesting is the number of linebackers the Steelers have on the team. They just list them as linebackers. Some of these guys that don't even have numbers, I might not even be sure that they're definitely an outside linebacker. I'm thinking they all are because I don't think that they're inside linebackers. But the outside linebackers go TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. You go with those first three?
Yes.
All right. After that, it goes. I don't know if it's Kieron or Kyron. I'm going to say Kyron because it's KYR. Kyron Johnson, who was on the Steelers roster, called up 3 times from the practice squad last year and then moved to the 53 for the end of the year. But he only had like 1 or 2 defensive snaps. He was there for special teams. Okay. You got David Perales. He was an undrafted rookie last year that ended up on the practice squad, on and off the practice squad. Other names that are there are Jeremiah Moon and Tyler Murray. I'm not exactly sure if they're inside or outside, but from what I understand, they're outside, so we're going to list them there. Kind of 3, and then we'll see, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. TJ Watt should have won Defensive Player of the Year. When he's healthy, the Steelers do well. When he's not, they struggle. Anything else you want to say about Trent Jordan before we get on to other things that are actually maybe debatable?
He's really good.
He's really good. I'm telling you, if you don't have a Steelers jersey and you want to buy one of a current player, even though he's now 8 years in, that's still a really good one to have. TJ Watt, he's the man. All right. Alex Highsmith. There are some people, Jefferson Hartman, that so often
Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman.
They look so much at sacks for an outside linebacker that they're convinced that Alex Highsmith had a down year last year. Do you think Alex Highsmith had a down year last year?
No. To me, I probably noticed him more last year than the year before. In terms of noticing his play on the field.
Yeah. Had the 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. He had the strip sack that TJ Watt returned for a touchdown in that same game. He went from 14 and a half sacks. Now, remember, that was an awful lot of games without TJ Watt.
Yep.
To only 7 sacks this past season. But I know a lot of people don't put much in PFF, so I'm not even going to look at PFF. But if you look at Pro Football Reference, which is where I go to get all my stats, any stats that I can get from Pro Football Reference, that's what I go to. Their numbers line up with what I get on the Steelers media site. They just have more of them and everything else. They do this stat that I've talked about before. They call it approximate value. And what it is they're attempting to put a numerical value on every player. They've done it all the way going back to 1960. And it's supposed to just give a number that kind of allows you to compare what kind of season that player had, where it doesn't matter what position they played, offense, defense, whatever, that it kind of gives you an idea. The thing with Alex Highsmith, he had his highest AV last season for Pro Football Reference. In 2022, when he had 14 and a half sacks, he had an AV of 8. Last year, they had him at an AV at 9. So he's gone up one every year. He was 7 in 2021. Well, he's 4 his rookie year. 7 in 2021, 8 in 2022, 9 in 2023. That goes to show that even though it's not always about the sacks, the numbers, you can still give high quality reps. Now, I'm not going as far as the whole win rate percentage and yeah, you could be defensive player of the year even though you only got 1 sack over the final third of the season. But I'm just saying, especially when you have someone like TJ Watt there to clean up the sacks, there is an awful lot that Alex Highsmith can do other than stack up numbers.
There's more than just stacking up numbers. I mean, well, we used to talk about this when you stop and think about it. Before the Steelers had Alex Highsmith, the outside linebacker opposite TJ Watt was Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
And what's one of the things we always talked about with Bud Dupree?
He
wasn't just the sack numbers. Yeah. What was he really good at?
Setting the edge.
Setting the edge, right?
Yep.
A lot of times, if you're not super into the X's and O's of football, you don't even know or understand what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how important is that when it comes to defensive football? It's very important. So, there's things like setting the edge, filling the proper, filling proper lanes, especially on running plays. And honestly, when you want to get to it, when you look at the edge rushers for the Steelers, when you look at TJ Watt and you look at Alex Highsmith and you look at their play overall is also dependent on what's happening on the interior of the defensive line. I mean, so much has to happen in the trenches. When and I still look at outside linebacker, especially for the Steelers, as being, they're in the trenches. They're in the trench warfare. So much can depend on how the unit is performing overall. And, because if the rest of that unit was awful, every team would double team or better TJ Watt on every play. But they can't. Because if you double team TJ Watt on every play, the Steelers are going to be able to figure out and they're going to dial stuff up and you're going to pay for it. So,
yeah.
That's that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I really, what I'm trying to say is I really agree that there's so much more to an outside linebacker's play than just getting to the quarterback.
Yes. But that's very important too.
It is very important too, and it's what earns you the big payday.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you make the big bucks in the NFL, is being the edge rusher who can get to the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and there's just so many things to it.
But
Yeah.
But if that's all you do, what does Coach Tomlin call you?
One trick pony.
A one trick pony. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because I'm even looking at, people, going back even to TJ Watt a little bit, and they're like, oh, well, TJ Watt, and he doesn't defeat the double teams. That was one of the things that moron Micah Parsons brought up. That's because he doesn't understand. It is pointless to try to block TJ Watt with two guys at one time. Do you want to know why? It doesn't hold him up any more than one guy trying to block him at a time.
Yeah.
It's not going to actually save you any time. But what does save you time is what teams have tried, done to TJ Watt, and that is block you with one person, and then once you finally get through him, you've got to run the gauntlet through another. They want you to, once you pass one, then the other one's waiting for you. That's actually how you slow TJ Watt down, is make him deal with multiple people, not at the same time.
Multiple layers,
yes.
Of defenders. Yes. Multiple layers of defenders.
That's what you have to do to TJ Watt. So that's how he changes the game, is because you have to add those layers. Alex Highsmith I think he's just very well-rounded. He can drop into coverage. He can good against the run. He can rush the quarterback. I think he's a very, very balanced outside linebacker. And you need that when it's someone opposite of TJ Watt. Then there's the young guy. Now, there was a question that was asked here earlier by Ted Jones. He says, Dave, I heard Nick Herbig is working at inside linebacker. If you read Bob Labriola's Asked and Answered today, he would say exactly the opposite. He's like, stop trying to put Nick Herbig at inside linebacker with all these other guys when he's the number 3 outside linebacker.
Yeah.
That's really important right now. Now, last year, when he was kind of number 4 and a rookie, but could you have thought about maybe last year if they'd really gotten a bind? I mean, they didn't want to do that to a rookie. That would have made more sense. But now he's the number 3 based on their roster makeup right now. It doesn't make sense to move an inside linebacker, because if not, then you have huge holes there. And I don't notice I didn't say hole. I said holes. But Rich, what do you think of little Nicky Herbig in his rookie year?
Just tremendously high motor.
Yeah.
I think he'll be somebody who could potentially really benefit from a full offseason with the Steelers. Strength and conditioning. I'm sure they're going to work on, putting a few more pounds on him. But try to do it in a way so that he doesn't lose that speed burst that he has. I thought it was a solid first year, and just really can't wait to see how he's going to contribute here in year 2.
Yeah. My thing is, right now, and how the Steelers used him last year, you saw that high motor just coming in, and you're just like, my goodness, the guy played 3 snaps and he had a sack, or 3 pass rush snaps and had a sack, things like that. My thing is, if he was playing 50 snaps a game, could we see the same high motor that we do all the time? I don't know. But that's all right. I just want him to have that motor whenever he's out there as much as they needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's exciting. I think the Steelers feel more than confident in having him be the next guy there. So that's where they sit right now. And then you've got the field. I'm just calling it the field. That's
the field.
Honestly, right now, I still feel like, maybe one of those could break out to make the roster. If not, I feel like it's guys fighting for special team snaps to make the roster or for the practice squad.
Yeah, if I was going to give an inside track to anybody that's currently that the Steelers currently have under contract, I'm going with Paralis because I really liked him last year. I really liked him last year in the preseason. I liked what I saw there, and if he were to, he's a guy that honestly, if he did all the right things in this off season, I could see him easily becoming that number 4 guy.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, we're trying to get people to ask you draft questions. Yeah,
I see
you're
that.
going to answer draft questions.
I mock draft.
You mock the mocks. We're going to get to these type of questions next week when we do that. That's when that's really going to come in.
Yeah.
So what? I think the Steelers might have more to do at outside linebacker. But that's kind of what we're going to address at the end of the show. So maybe, just maybe, unless you have more to talk about with outside linebacker, we should take our break and move along so we can then ask the big question that we have about it.
Okay. Let's do that.
So before that, we're going to have our 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. That we've been doing here during the offseason, which has been a lot of fun, especially last week when we got to kind of roast Big Bro for his Big 5-0, where you got a great gift of saying you're on for jury duty on your birthday.
Birthday night. Yep.
Yeah.
Friday. It was on my birthday, Friday evening.
When you had to
call,
call
and they're like, report for jury duty, and I'm like, you're kidding. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you. So, all right. So we'll get back to this right after this break. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, Steelers fans, here we go. We are moving on to the last segment of the show. Well, not last segment. We've made our last break. We're on to the last thing. We've got 2 more things to cover. It's the 5 minutes of non-Steelers talk. And once again, Rich leaves it up to me. So I have to try to come up with something. There's a topic we've hit once, but very specifically, that's always a fun topic to talk about. So we're going to go back to movies this week. I love movies. I love going to the movies. I went to the movies last weekend. But sometimes there's movies that just aren't very good. And sometimes there's movies that are good that we don't think are very good. I've got 2 questions for you, Rich. This isn't necessarily like, I know when we did this before, we were talking about chick flicks, rom-com, stuff like that we had to do. What movie that, more generally and critically or whatnot, that people say is not a good movie that you actually really like? And then on the flip side, what's a movie that everyone says, oh, this movie is so good, and you're like, nah, that was terrible?
Okay, I'm going to start with the second one because that one's easier for me.
That's easy for you.
And I'll answer it, and then you answer this as well.
Yes.
And then,
okay. If I have my answer, that one's easy.
All right. So the movie that everybody thought was great, critically acclaimed, and I thought it's just awful, was Titanic.
I knew that's what you're going to say. That is my daughter's favorite movie.
That movie was awful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awful. I just hated it. Didn't like it. Didn't get all the hype. You
didn't even watch it. For the longest time, I know you didn't watch it because you wanted to be able to say, I've never watched Titanic.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it in a movie theater. I did not watch it in a movie theater. And because I thought it was being overhyped then. Yeah. And when I finally watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, not only is it overhyped, it's just god awful. So that one's mine.
Okay. I have one. This one's probably going to be one that people are like, really? I'm like, I don't care that it was nominated for all these awards. I don't care that it has an actor who I really like their stuff. Actually, the movie I went to the theater to watch this past weekend included this actor. Really like the actor, has other big name actors in it, big name director, all this stuff. It was supposed to be so great. I've never watched a movie that I just didn't care what happened more than this movie. I really didn't care how it turned out. But I'm like, I'm going to watch to the end just to make sure that it wasn't something that was so great that I just missed it at the end and I didn't really like it. It was supposed to be funny. There was maybe 2 funny parts of the movie, and it was in the trailer. So they didn't bring any more comedy to me. And that is the movie Lost in Translation. I hate that movie. That movie was terrible.
Hold on, I gotta go back and look up a little more about that movie because that's
starring Bill
I,
Murray, Scarlett Johansson,
yeah,
and Giovanni Ribisi. I'm pretty sure. But there was a couple funny things that he was shooting a commercial because they were in Japan that were fun, but they had them all in the trailer. And I'm just like, so I watched it because people said it was so good, and I'm just like, I don't even care. I don't even care what happens to these people. I mean, I was fighting to stay awake. It was just not good. I know even KT Smith mentioned that as being a good movie on a show within the last few weeks. And I was like, oh, that is like my least favorite movie I've ever seen. But no, I did go watch the new Ghostbusters movies this past weekend, and I thought it was funny. So, here's what I don't agree with. Gavin Anthony says, I don't care. I didn't like Oppenheimer. Oh, I loved Oppenheimer. I thought that.
Yeah, so did I. I thought it was really good. But you, I think it plays to extra special geeky people.
And that's us.
Yeah.
I just liked, all these things that I've known and, heard about and studied and everything, like even in college with all those things. So, Rich, do you have a movie that, generally people think, it's just more known as like a terrible movie that you actually like a lot?
I don't know. I might have to make you go first here to kind of see what direction you go to see if that helps click something in for me.
Because they're probably movies you might not have even heard of because they came out, they didn't do very well. Okay. Back in college, there was a movie because, we used to watch movies. Sometimes you're like, oh, this is supposed to be a bad movie. Let's watch it so we can see how bad it was. And then it was really good. How about a Michael J. Fox movie? The Frighteners. That was actually a really fun movie. If you've ever seen that.
Yeah, never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's where there's it's got Gary Busey's son. He's in it. And I'm trying to remember who else. But it's a whole thing that he can see dead people. It's not like Sixth Sense see dead people, but it was actually kind of funny and pretty good. More recent major box office flop for Disney years ago, but I actually really liked the movie. John Carter. It was this big action movie. Mm-hmm. If you've ever heard of that one, I actually really like that movie. Yeah, that's the end of the 5 minutes. So if you have your answer, you can give it real quick.
Yeah, no, don't have it. I'm just trying to think of. I will say this: there were several times where there were, like when Renee and I first got married. Like I said, we were big into rom-coms, and there were certain ones that got like hammered by like Siskel and Ebert and people like that. And, all the reviews of it were terrible and we loved them. Probably including the first movie that we ever went out on a date for, which was Forget Paris.
Oh, yeah.
With Billy Crystal, was one that was not highly touted. That I wouldn't say it's a great, fantastic, but we enjoyed it. It's. I'd say that's more where it goes to me is I go against what sometimes the ratings are. If I think I might enjoy the movie, then I go and see it, and more times than not, I enjoy it.
Yeah. You know what? I've gone to movie. I know we're going to move on for this, but I've gone to movies with people that never liked the movie. They just didn't like it. Okay. Now, one time I agree with them was when we went to the second Jurassic World movie. That was pretty bad. Let's see. And we saw some other movies that weren't good in there, but I generally still just enjoy my experience going to the movie theater, just because that's why I go, is because it's fun.
My problem is
we're getting some good ones in the live chat.
I just don't go to the movie theaters very often.
Yeah,
we just don't take the time or spend the money and do it that often. So,
yep. So there's some people that are here like, what's going on? They might not have been here for a while. This is something we've been doing in the off season. We take 5 minutes to talk about a non-Steelers topic, just for fun. But there's some interesting ones in here. Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 it was better than 2. I know someone said that
three was better
Iron
than 2.
1 was overhyped. That's your favorite Marvel movie of them all, isn't it, Rich?
Probably.
Yep.
Iron Man 1 is way up there for me.
Iron
Man 2 was not.
That's what Afton said. She said wanted her money back.
Yeah, overall, that was not a fantastic movie. There were parts of that movie that you absolutely had to have, and then the rest was just filler.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mr. Woods, I got to bring this up. Hold on, I clicked the wrong one. Sorry, Thomas. It said Alien 3, so not a good movie. Want my money back from 25 years back. When you get to that many movies in a series, you can't just say that, what do you expect for movie number 3? I get it. Maybe 1 was too good or 2 was good. I don't know. I don't remember a lot of those movies, but there we go. So Rich, are we ready to get into your big question? Mean Joe, you can ask the question again. I can tell you, Rich probably doesn't even know who those people are. Asking about who you would prefer in the first round of the draft.
I know JPJ. That's it.
And Jackson Powers Johnson, and according to our source, he's number 3 on the Steelers center list. People weren't talking about there. Oh, Mean Joe says no, it was 3 times that he asked. Here's our question, Rich. You know this one's coming. We're going outside linebacker. Okay.
Yep.
The Steelers have gone with 3 outside linebackers before. And it's been not just in a game, not just a game, not a game. I'm talking about on the roster. There was a season where it was, for most of the season, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Anthony Chickalow. That was it.
Yeah.
They didn't even have another one on the roster. To me, that's dangerous. The question is, we're pretty sure what the Steelers have at 3 of the outside linebackers. They kind of need another one. So, similar question to what we've been asking. That 4th outside linebacker for the Steelers this year, currently on the roster, bringing back someone who's been with the team before, an outside free agent that's new to the Steelers, or someone in the draft. Who do you think is going to make up that? And I'm not even going to tell you, they don't have to be the number 4. They're just the 4th one. Maybe they're even number 3. You know what I'm saying? Based on what the Steelers do with it. I'm just saying that it's the 4th, the 4th person to make the roster, assuming that they have the 4. If not 5, because you can still have that 5th guy that special teams are not going to be active. But the guy who's going to round out their fearsome foursome of outside linebackers, where is it coming from? Remember, those of you in the live chat, don't answer until I put it out there, because then I'll bring them all up.
I don't even know why I'm doing this. This is more just a gut feeling for me, and believe it or not, more times than not, that's where I'm best going off. Trying not to overanalyze, overthink, just what I feel might happen. And this is one where I have a feeling that the Steelers may bring somebody back.
Bring somebody back.
Yep.
Well, that was going to be my answer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, rather a Marcus Golden. Bud Dupree, even though he wasn't with the Steelers for the last couple of years, that would still technically be bringing somebody back. If it's not bringing somebody back, I think they could maybe sign a different veteran that's never played before. I don't know that it's going to be the draft. So I'll go sign someone who hasn't been with the Steelers before, since you went with the other one. Okay. I've now put it out there of where's that fourth outside linebacker come from. Like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean they're number 4. Someone might feel that the Steelers will shock everyone, take an outside linebacker in the first round, and they're going to be a true 3-man rotation and bump Nick Herbig. Someone might believe that. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying somebody out there might think that. Okay. Kathy says, we're going to poach one from another team's practice squad. So in other words, maybe even later on in the season. I like that answer, Kathy. Thomas Riley says bringing back someone from he says specifically from last season even. Thanks me. Joe goes the other route. He says he thinks Bud Dupree, if healthy, is in play. This from what I understand, Bud Dupree is healthy. He just doesn't have a team right now. Let's see. Gavin Anthony says specifically bring back Marcus Golden. I know Jefferson Bartholomew's talked about that before, so I can see that. Reginald Rivers says bring someone back. So does Afton, says bringing someone back. Claude Bishop, calls a more precise shot by saying re-sign Golden. Actually, it says resign Golden, but I know what you mean. That's not how we type in the live chat anyway. So just mess with you, Claude. Concepts 1 says Golden, lit, or fire, or whatever nerdy way you want to say it. Steel Dog 88 says bringing back Golden after the draft. Bring back Golden after the draft. What he says. Valley Ford says to re-sign Marcus Golden. And do you have any more up here yet? I don't see any.
I don't.
So notice what was missing. Two things missing. Seeker Steeler Chick 46 says, bring someone back. And Sherry Richards, got to make sure they get in here. It says Golden. Okay. So the question is, nobody said they think the fourth guy's on the team. And one of these young guys that could come on.
Yeah.
Ruben Stone says bring back either way. Nobody said draft. This was one of the things we talked about last Thursday on the preview. And that was what positions and what do you think is off the table for the draft? And some of it was, we were talking about, philosophies or things like that. And one of it was positions. This is one that Jeff said, no, not another outside linebacker. You'd rather bring back Golden. This is a good question. I'm going to ask this here to kind of ask you to as one final thing, because we didn't talk about this. Do they see Liao as a potential fourth string outside linebacker just because they used him there before, which was 2 years ago?
I'm leaning towards no, because after doing that with him 2 years ago, they didn't follow up with it at all last year.
That's because they didn't need to. Yeah. So you would think if they were going to, they would have done it a little bit last year.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So unless they said, hey, you're not, we're not even having you active on the defensive line. Why don't you slim it down a little bit and bump outside if you want to stick around here, if that's what you'd like to do, if you think that would be worthwhile. Could they have said that to him? Yeah. Have we got any reports of that? No. So I would say it's not that it's impossible. I would just say that it's unlikely that would happen without any kind of report coming out about it. So,
right.
Yeah. So, Claude Bishop says this, and I heard this as well. I heard that Golden is a good locker room guy and his teammates love him. Agreed. I'm all for it. But once again, there's some of these positions that I know we're out of time, but it seems like sometimes you don't want to make. I feel that Kevin Colbert made a pretty big mistake on his way out. And that was, oh, let's go sign one of the biggest quarterbacks in free agency and also draft one in the first round. So it just didn't seem like it ever really fit. And it obviously didn't work out. I mean, look, both of them are gone now. Yeah. That maybe, some people still feel like the Steelers kind of did Mitch wrong the whole time. Something like that. Maybe the Steelers have some other options at center, outside linebacker, receiver, cornerback, where there's some people that said, hey, I'm interested. I want to see what you do in the draft to see if there's room for me or not. It's possible. I'm not saying it's definite, but that could be possible. And honestly, if I was a free agent right now that was still, considered a decent free agent that, yes, someone's going to, the question is if you're going to be the team, it's how much are you going to get to play for? Meaning, are you going to get the $8 million contract or are you only going to get the $3 million contract? If I was one of those guys right now, I would wait till after the draft. Because why would you want to go to a team now on a reduced deal? I mean, unless someone's offering you what you feel is your top dollar, why would you go somewhere on a reduced deal and only to find out that team turns around and drafts the same position very high in the draft? And you just might be a placeholder for a few weeks. So I think we'll see a lot more moves leading up, maybe right before, during and after the draft. I think you're going to see it again this year. So yeah, because Thomas Riley just asked real quick, any news on Tyler Boyd and the Steelers? No, that might be what it is. Maybe he wants to say, I'm not going to take a deal for as much as the Steelers are offering me if they're going to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 days. Or maybe he's not. Maybe they're nowhere close. I don't know. But I don't it doesn't seem like it's happening. But depending on how things shape up with the draft, maybe you can see things kick up afterwards if he's still around. So, hey, make sure you're checking out all our podcasts. They're still coming at you strong. Same schedule, same lineup. Although we did have to have some guest hosts on The Hangover last night, in case you missed that. Other than that, we're ramping up for this draft coverage. Remember, next week we'll be doing our mock draft live with you all. Then the week after that, we will do our last summation of everything, especially particularly narrowing in on the first round for the Steelers right before the draft. Can't believe we only have 2 more shows until the draft, Rich. This is great.
I know.
Then you'll get crazy draft coverage from us the whole time. And also make sure you check it out, SteelCurtNetwork.com. Hey, if you get a chance, go back and check out that article that I wrote today that we talked about at the beginning about the number of draft picks by the Steelers that are left on the team. And like I said, my series is kicking off tomorrow with whatever happened to it. It'll be the class of 2011. And of course, I'll have a salary cap update first thing in the morning. So make sure you check that out at SteelCurtNetwork.com. Rich, what do you have to say to close us out here tonight?
Just a real quick wrap up here as we are well on our way into the month of April. The month of April, to me, is made up of 2 things. Good fishing.
The NFL draft.
And the NFL draft.
I knew those
when it comes to the NFL draft, it's all about the Steelers. Can't wait.